are these? These are the thinner tubes into which the trachea divides as it enters the thoracic cavity. Now, as we discussed, the trachea goes up to the mid-thoracic cavity. After that, it gets divided into bronchi. So, how do they divide? Now, let us see the division of the trachea. So, this is trachea. Let us suppose this is trachea. Now, as soon as the trachea reaches almost towards the mid of the thoracic cavity, it actually branches out into tube-like structures, somewhat like this. So, it branches out into 3 tube-like structures towards the right lung, and it branches out into 2 tube-like structures in the left lung. And these tube-like structures are known as the bronchi. So this is, let us suppose, this is the right lung and this is the left lung. So this is how it divides. So these tube-like structures are known as bronchi. So here in this picture, it is not shown very clearly, but actually this is how it splits. In the right lung, it splits into 3 bronchi, and in the left lung it splits into 2 bronchi. So these tube-like structures are known as the primary bronchi. So the right bronchus divides into 3 bronchi. As I said, that towards the right side it divides into 3, and towards the left side it divides into 2 bronchi. So this is how. Now these tube-like structures will further divide into thinner tubes like this, which in turn will further divide. So this division will continue, and that is how they are named as primary, secondary and tertiary bronchi. So as I said, the primary bronchi will further divide to form the secondary bronchi. So this will form the secondary bronchi, and the secondary bronchi will further divide into thinner tubes called the tertiary bronchi. Now, can you just imagine why so much of branching off is taking place? Because if there is so much of branching off, actually this will increase the effective surface area inside the lung, which will in turn help in the process of absorption. Because for absorption, more is the effective surface area, better is the absorption. So that means here the primary bronchi, maybe as I showed in this picture, let us suppose if this is your primary bronchi. Okay, I'm just trying to explain you what it is. So let us suppose this is our primary bronchi. This primary bronchi will further divide into secondary bronchi, something like this. And these secondary bronchi will further divide into tertiary bronchi. So these are tertiary bronchi. Now these tertiary bronchi in turn will divide into bronchioles. So what are bronchioles? That we will see in the next slide. But so much of branching off is because it wants to increase the effective surface area so that the net absorption can be increased. Now also try to understand the path which air will follow. Now air will come inside our body through the nasal openings, the nostrils. Then it will get into the nasal cavity. From the nasal cavity it will come into the pharynx. From pharynx it will come into the trachea. From trachea it will come into the bronchi. From bronchi it will get into the bronchioles. So as soon as it enters into the bronchi, we can say that air has entered into the lungs, because bronchi is present inside the lungs. So bronchi means once the air has reached primary bronchi, it is there inside the lungs. Now after that, inside the lung, it will start moving from primary bronchi to secondary bronchi, then to tertiary bronchi, then to bronchioles, then to alveoli. So that will happen. But now the air is inside the lungs. So let us look at bronchioles. Each bronchus further divide into finer branches which are called bronchioles. So these are again finer than the bronchi. So here you can see the bronchi, this is the primary bronchus, the thicker one. Then it forms the secondary bronchi, which are again thinner, and that means bronchioles are finally very thin, almost hair-like structures. So they are bronchioles. They are extremely thin and they are the terminal branches. So the bronchioles do not divide further to form anything else. So they are the last. They do not divide further. So they are supported by incomplete cartilaginous rings. Again, just have a note at all these things, that all the structures which form a part of the respiratory system, they are quite tough and hard, especially these tube-like structures. Whether you talk about the trachea or you talk about the bronchi or the bronchioles, they all are supported by cartilage. So if they are supported by cartilage, that means they are not elastic in nature. They are like quite rigid and stout, so that whether air is there inside them or not, they will always be like that. So they are also supported by cartilaginous rings. And here if you see the trachea, you see these ring-like structures, right? Those ring-like structures are actually the cartilaginous rings. So each bronchiole ends in a cluster of tiny air chambers called alveoli. So now when you actually look at the structure of the bronchioles closely, so they are like this kind of structures, very tiny ear-like structures. But towards their end, they have some swollen structures, balloon-like structures, you can say. They are called alveoli. So if these are the bronchioles, then their ends have some structures which are air chambers, that is, they help in exchange of air, and they are called alveoli. So we are going to talk about alveoli in detail because they are the main site for gaseous exchange. They are the places where exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide actually take place. Because till now what was happening? Till now oxygen is only getting conducted. You took in the air is getting passed from one organ to another. That's all is happening. There is no exchange which has actually taken place till now. But now the exchange will take place here at alveoli. So these are the tiny air chambers, and each bronchiole ends into a cluster of such tiny air chambers. So if you look at any of these end bronchioles closely, this is how they look like. So the bronchioles will have like multiple air chambers like this, the swollen structures. And on top of that, you see these red and blue lines. What are they? They are nothing but the blood capillaries, that is the blood vessels. So these alveoli are in close contact with the blood vessels. And this is the reason why they help in exchange of gases. Now we will see how it helps in exchange of gases. But for now, you just try to understand the structure. Because if you are clear with the structure, it will be easy for you to understand how the process takes place. Okay, so each of these bronchioles will end up in balloon-like structures, swollen structures, and they are called alveoli. And these alveoli will also have a tube-like structures for conduction, which is called alveolar duct. And the walls of the alveoli, as you see here, the walls are in close contact with the walls of the capillaries or the blood vessels. So alveoli provide a surface where the exchange of gases can take place. Because the surface of the alveoli and the surface of the capillaries, they are very much close to each other. So exchange of gases can take place. That means the oxygen which we have breathed in and which have reached up to alveoli, they can be passed on from alveoli into the capillaries or the blood vessels. And once the oxygen has been passed to the blood, blood can carry it to different parts of the body. Similarly, the carbon dioxide, which was a product of cellular respiration, if that carbon dioxide is present in the blood, so the blood can also pass that carbon dioxide to alveoli, and then alveoli can send it back through the same path. That is, alveoli can send the carbon dioxide back to the bronchioles, then to bronchi, then to trachea, and then it can be thrown out through the nostrils. So that way the exchange can take place between the blood capillaries and the alveoli. So exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide. So walls of the alveoli contain an extensive network of blood vessels, that is the capillaries, as I mentioned just now. So we will see this is the most significant portion here because this is the place where exchange of gases or exchange of, so this is the place where exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide take place. So if you have alveoli and you have the blood vessels, they are like very close to each other. So what will the alveoli do? The alveoli will send the oxygen to the blood vessels, and the blood vessels will send the carbon dioxide to the alveoli. So this is how the exchange of gases take place, and this is the most important part of respiration. So the term breathing just talks about taking in air, giving out air. Next part is exchange of gases, that is sending in oxygen to the blood, taking out carbon dioxide from the blood. So that part is taken care by the lungs, and to be more specific, that is taken care by the alveoli of lungs. That is why it is said that alveoli are the functional units of lungs, because they perform the most important function of lungs, that is the actual exchange of gases. This is the most important function of the lung, which is performed by the alveoli. So now let us look at the diaphragm. What is diaphragm? You are in most of the pictures you are seeing that okay, there is some structure at the bottom, and that is named as diaphragm. So let us see what it is, because diaphragm also plays a very important role in the process of breathing. So it is a dome-shaped partition separating thorax from abdomen. So as I said, diaphragm actually marks the end of the thoracic cavity, and it also provides a support for the lungs, because the lungs rest on the diaphragm. It is muscular in nature, so since it is muscular in nature, so it is capable of movement, that is, it is capable of expansion and contraction. Now that is the characteristic because of which diaphragm is of vital significance in the process of breathing. That's because when we inhale air or when we take in air, that additional air needs an extra space to be accommodated. So that extra space needs to be provided by the lungs. Now if the lungs want to expand, there has to be something which will actually provide that space to the lungs to expand, and that space is provided by the diaphragm. Now whenever we inhale or we take in air, the diaphragm contracts, and as a result, so diaphragm is like a dome-shaped structure, a structure like this. This is the structure of a dome, right? So when if I say that this dome contracts, that means it becomes something like this. It becomes more flat. And if I say the dome expands, maybe it becomes something like this. So this is contract and this is expand. So what would happen if the diaphragm contracts? If it contracts, then this dome-shaped structure will become more down, so it will come somewhere here. So that means there will be more open space at the top, and that open space can be utilized by the lungs to expand, because the lungs are elastic in nature. So they will use up this free space and they will expand, and that is how they will accommodate the extra air which we have inhaled in. Similarly, when we want to exhale, so we gave out all the extra air which we had. So the air is given out now. So now the lungs do not need that much of space. So during that time, the diaphragm expand. So during expansion, it might go as long as this much distance.